Prepare for a fusion of knowledge and exhilaration where education and excitement collide.
Taking you on an adventure that expands your mind and speaks to your spirit.
I'm Master Nick.
I'm Lady Dee.
We are the Dom Life.
This podcast contains sexually explicit topics and adult content.
It is intended for listeners 18 and older.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are ours alone, based on our personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences.
We understand that others may have different opinions and experiences, and we respect that. We would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at www.thedomlife.com. Well, Lady D, looks like we are back here in Studio 1.
Oh, we're going to call it Studio 1 now?
Yeah, well, remember with our Gray and Evie, we was down in Studio 2.
This is perfect. Now I can have something to call it. Studio 1.
Back to Studio 1. It's just me and you for this episode.
That's always nice.
Yep.
I love sitting across from you and just talking to you.
Yep, it has been a while. We did just finish up the Gray and Evie interview, which such a fun interview.
They are amazing to talk to.
They are.
They have
We had a blast.
so many stories, and we laughed so much.
And we even had to, stop them, and it still wound up being 3 episodes. So that just tells us we got to get them back for another episode in the future.
It's already in the plans.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
All
we've
right.
got plans. We talked about it.
All right. Well, that's good. So today's episode, well, it is a little controversial.
Yeah, and opinions are very widely spread.
Yes. And this topic has came up in several episodes.
It really has.
Most recently with Gray and Evie, it was talked about.
But we're going to talk about it.
Yep. So we are specifically talking about consensual non-consent play.
So as we say, this is our opinions. We're only talking from our perspective,
Yes.
which is not a broad perspective.
Correct.
But they did mention it during the interview. They had said CNC a couple of times.
Yes.
And so we figured it is now time to drop an episode on it.
Yep. So moving forward, consensual non-consent, we're going to refer to it as CNC. But it involves a wide variety of sexual and non-sexual activities that are enacted as if they are forced, but on a consenting individual. Now, this does fall under the BDSM umbrella, and it is a kink, a big kink that you will find in movies, in books, porn.
I read a lot of romance novels.
Yes.
All different genres of romance novels.
Yes.
And it is in there a lot.
It is. It's a lot of the movies that you see, they start off with what would be a consensual non-consent.
Well, no, a lot of times they start with non-consensual.
Well, yeah, they do.
And then
it moves
it
into
moves
the
into, even with the romance, that happens a lot where they force themselves on somebody.
right.
And during that process, the other individual then becomes interested, excited, turned on, whatever it may be, and it turns into a more consensual act.
Right.
And so I think that's part of what the controversy is.
It is. And because it could bring up some old triggers that maybe you didn't know you had, or it could cause a problem in a relationship if CNC is not done properly.
With books now being all electronic downloads. I mean, we can buy books still, but then you got to cart them around. But I could
Right.
have 100 books on my phone. So with books, there are trigger warnings at the beginning. These romance novels that aren't romance novels, they're pretty down and dirty porn basically in books, which I'm not
Right.
complaining about.
Right.
The beginning of them has trigger warnings, which you would have never seen published in a book.
Right.
Like they wouldn't have been, hey, you have to be aware of this and that. But our world is such that they provide trigger warnings at the beginning of these books that have a lot of those.
I didn't know that, which of course I'm not much of a reader and I don't like audiobooks. So I have a hard
I love them
time.
both.
Right. And you do. I do not. So therefore I don't know what all there is out there now. But I do know I've heard a lot of people, men and women, talk about some of the books they've read, some of the books they've recommended, some of the stuff that is talked about in these books, the scenes that are played out in these books. And it is a huge fantasy for a lot of people.
A lot of people. I will tell you that a lot of the books that I read, there are things in there that I love,
Right.
that I get very turned on reading, but I don't want to do them.
Correct. And that's the other thing. You can fantasize about something, but never act on it.
Yes.
And that is perfectly okay. That happens. Everybody has their fantasies. And sometimes the fantasies is what you get turned on by or maybe play with yourself with. You get these scenes or these stories going in your head that you replay over and over again. It doesn't mean you have to act them out.
Right.
And you don't have to do that.
There's a whole series of books that I got into quite a while ago that are BDSM books.
Right.
And I read them and I get very turned on by some of the things in these books.
Where do you read these books at?
I read them in a number of places.
Oh, really?
I have them all available on Audible. And you wouldn't mind Audible books if they were good.
Yeah, I mean, again, they'd have to be good.
No, these are good.
Are they?
Oh, these are good.
I may have to check some of them out.
Let's back it up to what I think sounds amazing.
Right.
Physically, I don't think I could take.
Okay. Gotcha.
So,
and that's a lot of people. They read this and they fantasize about it and they go, but a lot of it don't get talked about. A lot of it never gets mentioned. It stays in their head, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, there is the few people that want to act it out or play it out or want to experience it. That is what this episode is about today. We want to lay out what we think would be a good way of doing CNC play safely, ethically, and without injury or harm or any kind of triggers that could pop up, trauma, or any of that stuff. So,
but again, this is from our perspective. So we're saying that we believe that there are ways to do it and ways to do it well.
Yes.
And we're going to just talk about what are some of the things that fall under the umbrella and then the ways to do it better than others, maybe.
Right. Now, getting into CNC is huge. All right. So in BDSM, we talk about communication. We talk about trust. These are the two biggest factors when it comes to CNC. You're doing more communicating. You have to have even more trust in your partners or in the individuals that you're setting this scene up with. Also,
a lot of times that would be on the dominant or the person that isn't getting, because I wouldn't be setting it up if I'm setting it up.
Well, that's the planning part of it.
Right.
The planning part will fall onto the dominant or to the person that is leading this scene. So, but the trust has to be there. If you do not trust me, CNC is something you shouldn't try.
Right.
If you can't communicate to me what you're looking
100%.
for to get out of it, stuff that you do not want done, a CNC,
your traumas, your triggers. If I can't be open and honest with you with my past
CNC
and things
cannot happen.
Right. Because it then becomes something that could potentially be another trauma for you.
Then, so after the communicating and the trust is there, then comes the planning. And there's a lot of planning that will go into a CNC scene.
Okay, but So I'm thinking of it and the planning part of it. It seems to me that what if we're at the club and we've already talked about it and I'm interested and you grab two guys and say, here, this is what.
Yeah. No.
That doesn't work.
This goes back to the planning because, for one, I would have to communicate with the guys that are involved.
You would.
I would have to set the scene for them. Here's the rules. This is what.
Oh, yeah.
This is what we are looking to
It's
get
not
at.
just.
All of this is behind the scenes. All of this is behind. You don't know anything about this.
Right.
You've expressed to me what you would like.
Right. Because if I'm planning every bit of it, then it's not.
Right.
I'm consenting to it as we're going along versus.
Let's say your fantasy is to be held and fucked by people you don't know. All right. My planning stages start. Okay, I've got to find these people. They may know you, you may know them, but it could be at a time that you wasn't expecting. I've got to tell them what we together are looking to get out of it, what your triggers are, what your safe words are. Right. You have to have safe words in this. Although it is CNC, you still have to have an out. You still have to have a way of stopping it.
Part of the planning is letting them know what your safe words are.
How this is going to play out. When are we both going to be at this place where it's going to happen? So there's the planning of when,
like if you're doing an abduction,
right?
Or even if you're doing it, is it going to be at the house? Is it going to be at the,
So you're looking at, what all is going to take place. They have to be involved in this scene, and the trust has to be extended to them. I have to make sure I trust these people that if yellow or red is called, they know and they are going to stop what they're doing, and we can communicate or talk.
It seems like a big part of CNC, and we did research, of course, because we haven't done this.
Correct.
So we're just doing research and kind of regurgitating it based on our world and what we believe.
Exactly.
So one of the things that a big part of the fantasy on consensual, non-consent CNC is rape, is being physically forced into an activity, many times sexual, or maybe it's, a blowjob or like a very forceful, like rapey kind of scenario. And because of that, that's one of the reasons that people are very divided on this.
Exactly, because it
but
is.
How many books have I read where the, man comes in and he starts the process and it's an alpha of a wolf pack, and you're like, he grabs her and he starts kissing her and she's like fighting him and trying to run away, and yet in the end everything works out. And so that kind of a fantasy is what you're looking for. You're not looking, I wouldn't ever be looking to actually be raped.
Right. Correct.
But the whole scenario of a safe place and getting that whole kink out there, like feeling that helplessness and this person taking control completely, and you don't know them. And it's not like our relationship. Of course that we have a relationship. So however you do it, there's that relationship. If it's a complete stranger or somebody I vaguely know, now it adds an increased stimulation.
Right. But also, in the back of your mind, you still feel comfortable because this is something that has been talked about, that was mentioned.
But some people don't want to know.
No, you don't. You're not going to know when it happens.
Right. But how do I actually know that this is the consensual one?
Well, you don't. But in an instance, so let's just replay this back a little bit. So I know we've talked about it. I know we've bounced ideas, but what if somebody actually does come to our house, rings the doorbell, and enters with a gun? How are you going to know that this is real or that this is a setup?
I think in certain
CNC.
I think in certain setups, like if you're talking weapons in our home, then it would be a case where you say, I because we have guns in our house.
few
I'm
of
going to
them.
be running to that gun.
Right.
I'm not just going to be like, okay, you got my husband, my spouse, my dominant. Okay, well, yeah, you're right. It's seeing, so
Right.
it has to be a
It's-
very
It's got to be a
specific
very, yes,
storyline.
it does. And again, I can see,
Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
would be tragic.
I can see the fantasy. I
Mhm.
understand the fantasy. I have some of the fantasies myself about, things happening to you or vice, all that. I don't want to be tied up and played with and all that
Well,
stuff.
you wouldn't
But
want to be tied up and given a blowjob and
I don't like
forced to have sex with somebody.
I don't like the tying up part. No. But in that instance, if I started screaming red, 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 you would automatically know that, hey, something's off here.
Right.
But
right. But if you've never talked about it before, like,
Right.
oh my gosh.
So that's the planning. That's where the planning. You say there's no planning involved.
I
and
didn't say that.
and
I
I'm
said,
telling
well,
you,
could you do it without planning?
there
Nope, you gotta
is
have a
an
lot
enormous
of planning.
amount of planning,
Yes, master.
and the execution of the scene has to go a certain way,
Yes, master.
or it could turn bad quick.
Yes.
All right. So glad you understand the planning part
I do now, and I did question it,
Yes.
and it was how much planning is involved. Couldn't it be a quick? It could be a quick, but
It
you still
could
have
be.
to have all the prior
Right.
discussions.
If it was just a scene with just me and you, yes, there's not a lot of planning. But the minute you start including, so like a kidnapping scene or a breaking in your house scene or something like that, that involves other people, that's where the planning starts getting bigger.
Yeah, there was some about blackmail, like
Yep.
some of the other kind of scenes we were talking about was like blackmail, hostage situation.
Yep.
That one was something I hadn't even thought about, but you being taken hostage.
Right. Me being, forced to stand in a corner or, tied to a chair where I have to sit and watch.
Right. And the person I'm trying to what save you or ensure you don't get injured, you have to do exactly what I say
Right.
or he's going to get it type of thing.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see it. I would enjoy doing something like that. But I guess I'm at the age where I really sit and think and question things about what can go wrong during all that.
Right.
So it is a kink. It is a fantasy of mine, but I think I'm going to be one of the statistics that doesn't act on it.
Well, but then, okay, so I completely understand. And we live this world where, we are a little bit older. And when we think about things, we think about all the possibilities usually. I missed this one. But what about a situation where it is like a primal hunt? That could be considered.
I would do that.
Consensual, non-consent. Well, I don't know, where there's multiple people that are maybe not well known to each other. You set up a primal hunt where the dominants have to capture the submissive.
Yes.
And capturing it involves literally the submissive fighting. Tooth and nail.
Struggle. Yep.
There's a struggle. I'm going to fight. There might be rules of no biting, no scratching on the face, no
closed fist hitting. No,
right. There might be some rules. I mean, come on.
You want the struggle. You want the struggle, but I'm not going in this getting a broken nose.
Face hitting.
I'm not going in this getting my eyes poked out. I'm not going in,
But if I punched you in the chest, you'd be okay.
Maybe.
I've been working out.
I know you've been working out. I've been right there with you. But again, yes, so the primal hunt, that falls in under a CNC scene. And there's hundreds of different ways of doing this. You can have it set up where, the submissives take off running, try to hide. The dominants go looking for them. Whichever submissive they find first, that's who they're trying to capture.
Right. You could have it where it's just with the partner.
You was telling me the other day of a story you was reading where each partner or the couple had a certain color glow band, and they were looking for their partner. Their partner's trying to hide, but there's a
And there's prizes awarded for
right,
the
whoever lasts the whoever
longest.
hides the best. There is a lot of different primal plays that you can do, and that does fall under kind of a CNC because you are giving consent.
But then you're going to fight like hell.
But then you're going to try to get away. The word no is going to be used, which is why we always say no is not a good safe word.
It
you
is
never
not.
want no as a safe word. You want to make sure you have a safe word that is not used in normal, everyday conversations.
Well, red is, but it's a color. So in terms of, red, yellow, green is because it's a common across the board.
Right.
Everybody understands
Everybody
red
usually
as being
understands
stopped.
that. Right. And it's easier to remember. It's easier to recognize. Although people talk of colors in any kind of a scene, you're not going to be discussing, your oranges and your blues and your purples or any of that shit. So red, yellow, green makes perfect sense in that as well. I still think back to the guy that's, pineapple juice was his safe word. I kind of like that. But getting back to CNC, there is several ways of setting up scenes.
There's more. He's using the Southern several to mean more than he's. Yeah.
There's many.
Yeah, not several as in one or two.
There's many. Yeah.
But
there is several ways of doing this. It can be sexual. It can be non-sexual things. Force feeding was one that we had seen.
I was like force enemas.
Yep.
We were talking about different ways in which if it's not sex that you would be forced into activities.
Right. One that I did read about that I have heard a lot of people have this kink and this fantasy that does fall under CNC is sleeping. Somebody may want to be asleep and have somebody to start doing sexual things, start taking advantage of them. Seeing how long they can stay asleep before they wake up.
That was in a book that I read too, where it was hot and heavy while she was sleeping. I'm like, I'll wake up. I wake up if you get out of bed.
Right. Yeah.
You'd have to give me some drugs.
and that's the other thing there. You can take these. Some people get drowsy off Sudafeds or cough medicine or something that kind of puts them into a deeper sleep. What do you take? Melatonin. You take melatonin to kind of help put you to sleep.
It wakes me up. I wake up easy.
I'm sure there's a limit
right
on how many of this you can take. You've got to do it safely. We're not sitting here, don't Bill Cosby somebody and do this. But
I believe you said that.
I'm going to say it because there is certain drugs out there that you can use. I don't recommend it. Maybe people have done it. Maybe people don't. But again, there is
what happens between consenting adults that are agreeing to different things. We're not judging.
Right. No. Hell no.
So if you
life.
do things that you want to do, it's not my job to step in the middle. I'm really kind of tired of a society that says this is wrong.
Right.
Because it's not wrong. I'm a consenting adult. This is what I want.
Exactly.
If I wanted it, which in my head, it sounds great, but
and that's BDSM in general. There's a lot of people still in this world that look at people that do BDSM and, you abuse your wife and, you're a narcissist and you're doing all.
And
maybe
CNC
they are, maybe they aren't.
Runs a real tight line to that.
Yes.
And that's why it's so divisive and people are on either side.
Yes.
And I understand that. But if it is not right for you and you don't want to do it, then that's fine.
Do not do it.
But if somebody wants to do it, if they're talking about it with their partner, if they're interested in, we were talking about a bunch of different ways that it happens. A kidnapping, put a bag over somebody's head.
Right.
And then I was thinking when you were talking about it, like, oh, you pinned me down. No, I need to be restrained with some leather, please.
Right.
Ball gag and blindfold, because the blindfold would be awesome, except maybe it wouldn't be awesome. Maybe it would be better to see the person who's doing it.
Right. Then you can, depending on how
especially
well they're
if they're a
playing
stranger.
It, right. Maybe they're putting on, like you said in one of the last episodes, the serial killer vibes. Maybe they've got the look that they can really look crazy and psycho and really get into your head and do a little bit mind games.
I wonder how many, when that happens, how often a partner gets hurt or a participant gets hurt, because if I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. See, and again, that goes back to my thinking of, fuck, I'm too old for this. You know, I don't want to get a broken rib or a sprained wrist or any of that shit while trying to wrestle with somebody.
If you're going to do it, then it'll have to be the multiple partner situation.
Yeah, I'm looking
where
at like
you
six
hold
people.
down a leg, somebody else.
I'm thinking 6 people that's going to come in. 4 of them's going to get an extremity. So each one of them's going to have one arm, one's going to have another arm, one with a leg, one with the other leg, and then 2 others to do whatever the hell they want to.
Okay, but
I'm looking at it. And then they can rotate, they can switch, they can.
Wait, so we've never had 6 partners, and now you're talking about like rotating.
Yeah.
Look at those visuals in your head, sir.
I'm telling you, what goes inside my head, I have to keep in, or else people run away from me, because I have these thoughts. I have these fantasies.
I don't run away from you. I run towards you.
Yeah, but you don't know what all goes inside this head of mine. Sometimes it scares me.
Maybe that's why you don't always let it out.
Exactly.
Because once that like Pandora box opens, you're like,
oh my God.
All right. So there's another scenario where it's blackmail.
Yes.
Right? So you have a picture of me, hey, we're talking to another couple. We have a picture. Hey, I'm setting up a scenario, please.
Right.
I'm going to send this to your work where you slept with another, blah, 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 did whatever. So unless you do ABC,
ABC, XYZ, 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Whatever that may be.
This is the benefits I'm going to get out of it, because I have this on you. That is a part of CNC, can be.
Right.
Or even that, we could, if we had a couple, setting this up, I could share a photo of you to them. And then they could now use this photo as a blackmail thing.
That's what I'm saying. Not you. It wouldn't work for you. I mean, it would work for you.
Yeah, I've got pictures of you I could send to your boss.
Well, you would never do that because we're married, and that would result in some really negative things going on.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I probably better not do that.
In the books that I read, one of the big things with this is that, of course, I'm reading mostly female perspective, males, female perspective. And one of the things that I see a lot of is that women want 100% of the attention, which is why the CNC, which sounds bad, that person wants the others. Like a man wants this woman so much that he is willing to do whatever it takes to get. And that's not real life. It's not real life.
Okay.
So, but for a CNC situation, this, 100% of your focus on me, 100%, and that whole, you would have to set it up. So I'm like that whole rapey vibe, but that person, because you're planning it in advance and telling them what I do, what I don't like. Don't do this because it'll not make it a good scene.
Right.
Because it's being all set up by a partner who is very experienced in who I am and what I like, it would make it fun in terms of scary, that edge of adrenaline, the hit, but the things that they're doing aren't going to tear me up inside. It's not a rape. That's not what CNC is.
Right, exactly. It is set up like one, but it is one that everybody has agreed upon prior to it happening.
And discussed enough details that, again, you don't pull out a big dildo that I can't fit inside of me.
I can't get Jamal on the wall.
White Jamal on the wall.
I can't get white Jamal on the wall.
No, that will not fit. And then it would be a sad day because you wouldn't have sex for a very long time as I heal. But that's what I'm trying to say. CNC, I see all the negative sides of it.
Right.
But I also see the fantasy side of it,
Right.
which is our brains go, God, to be pinned down and to be
Yep.
like it's adrenaline. Like adrenaline is a big part of this.
Yes.
When you don't know how far somebody's going to take something, it can be a turn on.
Right.
If
Yep.
you know what I'm saying?
And knowing in the back of your head that this is done in a safe environment, in a safe place, but there's still many questions as far as who's going to do
What if it's not in a safe place? What if it's like an abandoned? I know we're old.
Right. No, but I'm talking about, in your mind that it's not a real
master have set it
Right.
up for me.
Right.
So it's not a real, but it doesn't matter if it's real or not when your adrenaline's going.
Correct.
Like
What I'm getting at is, in the back of your mind, it's in a safe place, in a safe environment, but there is still so many questions that you don't have the answers to.
Like, how far are they going to take it?
How far are they going to take it? How many of them are going to be there? What all are they going to do to you? How are they going to hold you down?
Stop turning me on, master.
What implements are they going to use? I mean, you still have all those questions that brings the adrenaline, that brings that rush, that people fantasize about, but knowing it is a safe environment.
Yes.
And knowing that you still have your safe words.
It may not be a safe location, but it's a safe environment. And I have my safe word.
Yes.
If I got scared enough and I used my safe word.
Right. You still have an out.
I have an out.
Everything still comes to a stop.
Everybody, like that is, I get it, CNC, but you should have a safe word and they should know the safe word.
Exactly.
And if that is not set up, then it is actually rape.
Yep. And
if
that is
they don't
not
listen,
what we're saying to do.
Yeah. If they don't listen when you not say, oh, stop, don't do that, but use your safe word,
Right.
then
exactly
that's a problem.
So let's talk a little bit about people who should want to experience CNC. Again, this is my opinion. But if you are new to kink, if you are new to BDSM, if you are new to a dominant submissive relationship, if all this stuff is new to you, I highly recommend not participating in a CNC.
Yes.
In my eyes,
even if it's a fantasy, don't.
Right. I mean, talk about your fantasies. But for me, what I believe is, for one, you should know your partner inside and out. You should know automatically without them having to tell you, because they've already told you and you've already seen times. You should know their triggers.
Yes.
You should already know their hard limits. You should know where their soft limits are. You should know what they want, how they want it, how they like it. There is so many things that you should already know prior to setting up a CNC scene.
Right.
If you're not familiar, if you're a new couple, if you're just learning, if you're just exploring, it's okay to talk about it.
Right.
And it's okay to discuss, hey, one day I would like to try this. I do not recommend starting it until you have years of experience with your partner under your belt to safely navigate through it.
Well, and let's add to that, because again, we've made the comment that we're old and we can see all the negative side of things.
Yes.
Right? Because we're a little bit older, it's not like this. We have age behind us to see the negatives.
Right.
Here's a concern. You find somebody willing to do it. Not a group where it's a group setting. You find one person. That's all it's going to be a one-on-one. You'll be you can't be in the room if they're not blindfolded unless you're tied down, whatever. But you've got one person. Is that person a safe person? Will they stop? If it's a situation where you're not sitting in the room, you definitely have cameras. So verbally, I'm telling people, if you're not going to be in the room, you're going to be watching on a camera in a different room. Yeah. Like, I can't think of a scenario that's safe unless you have eyes on the situation.
You have somebody there that knows it's going to stop.
Right. And if it's somebody you know forever, then that's one thing. But if a lot of times these scenarios are set up with somebody who isn't maybe somebody you know well, or
Right.
somebody, because you don't want your partner. Well, although that could be a situation where a person, you set it up with a partner,
Right.
somebody that they've known before who sneaks in and
Right. But again,
sorry.
that's going that
My brain just
situation there.
flipped back and forth because it's
That
danger.
situation there is somebody's known that person for a long time.
Right.
I know people that I would trust doing it that you don't know.
Huh.
I know people that you don't know that I would trust to do something like this.
You know people I don't know?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've got people I've went to school with that I could call up and say, "Hey, let's meet somewhere. I got something I want to discuss with you." We'll call it a business opportunity.
You're going to call it a business
Now
opportunity.
that could be played out.
Oh
as
my
somebody,
God, I love you so much.
that could be played out as somebody you absolutely don't know.
Right.
But it is somebody that I have enough trust in that if I sat down with them and said, "Here's what you're going to do.
Right.
If you hear this word, you stop."
Right.
I would have enough trust in them to do that. And that's okay. Because I feel that I know you.
Right.
I know your limits. I know your triggers. I know all of this stuff. I would be comfortable setting it up.
And we would talk long and hard before, even though you know all of my current limits, my things, in order to set this up, there would be lots of discussion between us about it as well.
Yes.
And then, so far, I haven't been swayed that this is a way to go.
Right.
I mean, not that you're trying to sway me. I'm just saying mentally myself, I've flipped back and forth.
Right.
But I was thinking of another situation where if we were, consensual, non-consent, if we were in a dungeon and you set up a scene where another dom took over, I am not aware of this.
Right.
Again, we've talked about it. She really loves doms. I want somebody to dominate her. I guarantee if somebody in the dungeon tried to put me on my knees and take control of me, I'd be screaming red. Because, so there's just no good, because I would be like, hey, I have a master. You're not it.
So it is something that is discussed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just like we said, what's discussed between the people involved with it. And then the planning takes place.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it.
It's a lot. It's given me a headache just trying to go through all of the twisty turns of things that could potentially go wrong.
Yep.
But if it went right.
Oh, it would be an awesome fucking experience.
It would be an awesome experience.
It would be. And that is why.
I mean, in our world.
That is why people experiment with it. That's why people try it.
Oh, I mean, when I read books, it gets hot.
You fantasize about it. If that's where you want it to end as fantasy, leave it at fantasy.
Yes.
If you are one of those people that would like to experience it, do your homework, do your research, find somebody you trust, communicate everything you're willing to do.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be a partner.
Correct.
You could communicate with somebody you trust to set it up.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a partner as long as it's somebody you've known for a long time.
You and your partner needs to discuss.
Yeah, but what if you don't have a partner and you want it, but you know a lot of people in the community?
Then you would discuss it with them. You discuss what you're looking to get out of it. You discuss things you are not willing to do, things you don't want to happen.
Right.
And then you let that person plan it.
One of the things that you would probably end up doing in that kind of a situation, my recommendation is to pick a friend
to kind of oversee
it.
Yeah.
Because it takes too much communication outside. If you don't have a partner and you're still interested in doing it, pick one of your closest friends that are part of the community that you've dealt with for a long time and say, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me?
Right.
And they may not be able to, but sorry, that's a lot. This was a lot.
This is a tough topic. Again, it's controversial. And we're wanting to put it out there for people that want to know what CNC is, or maybe there's somebody wanting to explore CNC. Maybe you've never heard of CNC, but you've found yourself fantasizing or reading about this and you didn't understand what it was. We want to make topics available that relate to BDSM, whether we do them, whether we agree with them or whether we don't agree with them. It is a kink. It is a fantasy. It does fall under BDSM.
I agree with all of that.
And with this is a huge controversy. There is going to be people that listen to this that is going to respond, this is wrong. You should never do this. This is rape. This is abuse. You're going to get those people.
Right.
And I understand that. If you look at CNC as abuse, that's your opinion, and you are entitled and you have a right to your opinion. But for us, it's educational.
Right. I think that some people consider, this is the way I've heard it, you can't consent to a non-consent situation. You can't give prior approval for a situation you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know how it's going to happen. But the way we're laying it out is you will have a lot of the information.
Right.
You're not setting it up blindly,
right.
and it's not some creep off the street.
Correct.
And so we're trying to set it up or explain it or provide options that give you a safer option to do this.
Right.
Because if it is a fantasy, people want to enact it. Let's not do it in a way that's going to get ourselves killed, people.
Exactly. So
we need you as listeners.
Yes. So I hope this helps. I hope it kind of opens the door to CNC if you are interested in exploring it. Last thing I'm going to say, regardless of whether you choose to do CNC, whether you're entering BDSM, always do your research. Find the safest ways to do it. Find people you trust to discuss it with.
And to watch out for you.
And explore all you can with those people.
Let's live life.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned. We've got a lot more coming.
Always.
See you guys next week.
Please follow, like, and share our podcast.
Make sure to visit thedomlife.com, where you can find pictures and other details about the Dom Life podcast. And through the Contact Us button, you can ask questions or provide recommendations for future episodes.
We want to explore your kink too.
Be sure to check out upcoming events to see where our adventures are taking us and our photo gallery to where we've been.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you had fun listening and learning with us.
Till next time, keep calm and remember your safe word.
Red, red, red.